yours say? 7:01. Okay,
Oh,
gotcha.
my goodness.
Mine says 7:02 now.
Okay,
that
it's
you know.
recording now.
Flipped over to 7:02.
Carly?
Yes.
Greg Pollicka, very nice to
Hi,
meet you.
Greg. Nice to meet you.
Oh, that's taking me nowhere. Oh, it's because I'm not online. I gotta go online.
Yep, that's you.
Are we supposed to be on Ferndale Guest, right?
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to the Ferndale webpage, it'll automatically go through the,
No, I just go here.
oh, that's fine too, yeah.
But it says I gotta disconnect to
Oh,
reconnect.
no, because you have to go to the Ferndale webpage because you have to agree to that.
I see. It's because I had already been here once.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha.
But you always have to go to the Ferndale website in order to get to that page.
Gotcha. Okay. So now I can click on this and get where I need to be. Yay, we're here. Let me know when we need to start.
Anytime.
Okay. Calling to order, Board of Zoning Appeals meeting for Tuesday, October 17th, 2017. Roll call, please.
Colson,
Here.
Deasy,
Here.
Moore, Palmer,
Here.
Pollicka,
Here.
Porter, Shapiro,
Here.
Stedeman,
Here.
Williamson.
Here.
I was told that Porter and Moore were excused.
Okay.
They'd called. Okay.
Okay.
Alrighty, approval of the agenda, please. Any changes, additions?
Would the chair entertain a motion to excuse the absent members?
Oh, yes, thank you very much. Yes, I'd like to ask for that.
I move to excuse the absent members.
Support.
Roll call.
Hold on 1 second. I have to change this order here a minute. Okay. Colson,
Here.
Deasy, no. Aye.
Yes or no?
Yes or no?
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Hunt,
Sorry about that.
Deasy,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Pollicka,
Yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Stedeman,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes.
Thanks, Ian.
No problem.
Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion to accept the agenda as presented.
Support.
Roll call.
Okay. Let's see. We'll do it a different way. Deasy,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Pollicka,
Yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Stedeman,
Yes.
Williamson,
Yes.
Colson.
Yes.
Approval of the minutes from our last meeting, believe it or not, last May, a few months ago. I think most of us were here. No?
No,
No,
we had
I
one
mean-
from August.
Or August. It was August.
Oh, I apologize. This says, the first thing on this here says approval of minutes of 5/11, sorry.
That's okay.
Okay, August, most of us were here. Somebody like to make a motion to approve? Are there any changes, additions, anything that we saw?
I move to approve the minutes as attached to the packet from August 15, 2017.
I second the motion.
Roll call, please.
Williamson,
Yes.
Stedeman,
Yes.
Shapiro.
Yes.
Let's see. Pollicka,
Yes.
Deasy,
Yes.
Colson,
Yes.
Palmer.
Yes. Alrighty. We have two public hearings tonight, and the way this goes is that we'll have you present your application and your whatever else you'd like to say. We'll open it up for, then we'll have the city tell us what's going on, and then we'll have an open discussion for anybody in the audience that wants to say something. Our first one is 174 University rear yard variance. Is that you? Okay, would you like to come to the podium to tell us your name?
My name is Carrie Roeder. And
Carrie.
you just want me to go through the application?
Tell us why you're here. Yes.
Okay, so I'm here to get a variance for a home addition. The rear setback is 35 feet according to the code, and the addition that I'm proposing is only allowing for a 19-foot setback, so it would be a 16-foot variance.
And are there any reasons that you feel that we should approve this variance?
So I purchased the home as it is. The garage and the primary home were existing. The lot size is as it was when I purchased it. If you look at that neighborhood, the lot sizes do become more narrow as you head towards Woodward. And my property is zoned an R2. The R1 starts the next home as you head east. So my property being closer to Woodward, my lot is a little shorter, which doesn't allow me some of the distance that my neighbors have for a rear setback. And the way in which things are changing down the street, you know, they just tore down the school. There's new homes going up, and new homes have standards that are different from when my home was built back in, I think, 1928 or 1929. And although there were some minor renovations done to it right before I purchased it, really it doesn't have a lot of the amenities that updated homes now have, like a master suite. When you come into my home, you come in right to the living room. So the things that I would want to do to update the home, I'm not able to do within my lot size and meeting all the code requirements.
Is there any hardship that you find?
I would say the hardship is dealing with the existing conditions and then the lot size itself.
Anything else that you'd like to say to, I guess, encourage us to approve your variance?
I've been in my home almost 20 years. So this is what I do call home. And I had considered moving to a different community when I first started considering that I needed more than what my current home offered me. And when I looked at other communities, I really wanted to stay in Ferndale. So that's why I pursued this option to do the renovation on my house as it is existing. So.
If there's anything else that you'd like to say, let us know, because then I'll go to the city and ask them to speak.
That's everything.
Okay. Justin?
Just, I think Carrie kind of covered off everything, I think, from the application. So this is just an expansion of the primary structure. There is an existing garage on the site that's not conforming, so the rear yard setback, and talking with the city attorney, his interpretation was that the variance would be only for this rear setback, not for the garage on site. The minimum rear yard is the same. Rear yard setback is the same for R1 and R2 districts. So,
I'm sorry. When you say the same, are you saying that
35 feet.
it's 35 feet
35
regardless of? Okay.
for R1 and R2, it does change when it gets to R3 and R4. But just wanted to clarify that. And then, other than that, there was a question that was received by staff about lot coverage. This proposed addition would still meet the lot coverage requirement, which is the max is 35% for R2.
And this one's 34.8, I think.
Right.
You said?
Yep.
Okay. So we're right there.
And you said there's no concern with connecting the garage? That's irrelevant?
Correct, yeah, being that it's existing, not conforming. That was our initial question too.
It's my understanding then the 19 feet is from the new addition to the back fence?
Correct, yeah, from the new building envelope.
Where does the existing house go to right now as far as setbacks? I was trying to judge that and I couldn't tell from the photos, so. Is there a mortgage survey or something that we can peek at? Yeah, I don't see one in our package.
The only thing I had was the survey that was done when I purchased the house.
Yeah, that's a
back
mortgage
in
survey, yeah.
98, and I don't think I brought that.
Okay.
Um,
Through the chair, I have some questions for the applicant, if I may.
Yes, please.
So, taking a look at some documentation that we have, it looks to be about 50 feet, the existing.
The width?
No, the setback
Oh.
Yeah,
that
from
is
the back.
now.
So from the back of the house to the back of the lot is 50 feet currently.
Yeah, and the addition, the way it's gonna be laid out, there's just the one section that's gonna be the 19 feet, and then it is open to a covered porch area that is at 33 feet 5 inches. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but
So if it has to be 35 feet,
right.
okay, I'm just trying to have a visual of it. Okay, what was your question, Ann, honey?
Ms. Roeder, first I want to say, looking at the design, I see that your architect has put some time into this. I like the design, especially from the front of the building. I think they did a nice job of integrating the proposal into the existing structure. I wonder, did your architect have any discussions with you about the setback requirements during the design process?
So when I started this process, I did have some conversation with somebody at the office of the city who's no longer there, and did communicate with him the block diagrams that I was working towards in schematic design, and I was told that he would accept the plan that I then turned into construction documents without a variance. So when I emailed my final plans and got a response from Scott that that individual was no longer there and that now Scott was there, it was a bit of a surprise to me. And then to learn that the drawings that I had invested all this money in now could not possibly be built because they didn't meet some standards, and this person did not have the authority to waive the variance as they led me to believe.
Did your architect take a look at the zoning ordinance?
Yeah, and that's why we were in communication with the city to make sure that what we were proposing would work. So when I originally proposed my plans, I had 3 or 4 different schematic designs as to what we could do. All of them were going to require some sort of variance. All of them were going to require for us to have to do something outside of the standard code because of the lot size. So there was going to be challenges either way. He directed us in the direction in which the plans were created.
As I'm sure you can appreciate, this variance that you're asking for is a very substantial variance, a very substantial incursion into the rear setback. Have you considered shortening the addition and maybe adding some more onto the width of the addition so that you could be have less of an incursion into the rear setback?
I have looked at several different options with these plans. I've actually been working on them for almost 2 years. So we have considered a lot of different options. I have a lot of money at this point invested. So if this doesn't work out, I'm not going to do it. It's just that simple.
Question, just based on like looking at Google Maps, it looks like, because I had a very similar question, right? It looks like the way your garage door opens, you're running the house pretty much right up to the garage door, and then that's all paved. Where, do you own the lot immediately to the left of your house?
No, that's my neighbor.
Your neighbor owns that, okay.
And I've spoken to all my neighbors. I have signatures from some of my neighbors. That neighbor actually, I was in Colorado for 10 days. I was in Minneapolis for 3 days before and then 10 days in Colorado. When I got home a week from Sunday, he's been gone, him and his wife. They have a family member staying. I've gone over there twice now to try to get his signature because he's aware of what I'm doing. I've showed my plans to all my neighbors. They're all aware.
Okay, but just also to confirm, there's no alleyway behind your house?
No, there is not.
Okay.
No, there's actually no alleyway other than between the Tim Horton and then the homes that start.
Ms. Roeder, I appreciate
the-
the location of your parcels. Seeing as how I live on Saratoga myself, I'm also on one of these short parcels, and,
Right.
and I understand the difficulties that it poses when it comes to renovation. But is there anything special about your parcel of property that makes it different from the other parcels in Ferndale that are along that Woodward corridor that shorten up as they come closer to Woodward itself?
Well, because of the existing garage, like I said, there was still, because we had proposed even one very early on that did not attach to the garage. But then there was a fire separation concern, and it was advised that it would be better to connect. Well, of course, when you add this connecting piece, then you now have this further setback. In addition to that, with that further piece, that is how then the upstairs has been designed as well. So now you remove that, it changes all the structure of the documents.
Through the chair, I have a question for Justin. The house just to the east, actually the property, because it's used to be Lenny and his wife, I believe, lived in that house. It appears, yeah, and they had, I don't know, 30 kids that they raised throughout the years. But I noticed that their house has a significant addition onto it, which was probably put on many, many years ago before we ever implemented these kind of ordinances. Is that the same zoning as this applicant's house? Or did it change mid-block? Is it 3? Is she 2 and they're 3? Or
No,
I can double check for you real
From
quick.
her house,
That's how it is.
I believe.
I mean, universally
west.
has some change, but I don't
Is
think
2.
that it's right there. I think
and what is
closer
it
to the
the other way? 1?
One.
Yeah, I believe it's R2.
To the east, I believe it's R1.
I think it is R1 because
Okay.
I think
West.
I'm the last one
Yeah.
on the street.
Exactly.
It's
I meant,
R2.
yeah, I meant to the west, but
Okay, so east is R1, west is what her property, and west is R2. So even if we were to change it either way, it wouldn't matter because they're still the same requirement. Well, that blows that thought out of the water.
And many of those properties right there, like 2 of them behind me, the one house over heading towards Woodward, they're all rentals. They're not, homes that are occupied by families that own those homes.
right. A little bit further to the west, when you get to 134 and 140, that's when it's parking, and then there's, about 7 parcels where it's R2, and then everything to the east as you get toward Paxton is all R1.
Okay. R3 isn't anywhere around there.
No,
No, the first lot is zone parking, but there's actually a structure there.
right.
Yeah, like 165 is a multi-unit. I don't know like how many apartments that they have, but the whole rear of that is just a parking lot. The entire backyard is a parking lot.
Yeah, people did a lot of things in the 80s and 90s that we don't allow today.
Right.
Understandable. And it was not my intent to build plans that would not be acceptable. As I mentioned, I thought I was getting the right information in moving forward with these plans, so.
So it's my understanding that the addition to meet the garage, to attach the garage, is the actual problem, because the back of the structure wouldn't go beyond that point. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. So there's no way, and Justin, I guess, that just that garage could be attached as a breezeway, let's say, and then the addition shortened up. Would that make a difference because it's only a breezeway and not necessarily a living structure? I'm just thinking out loud.
The way it's written now, that would still make it attached, is my understanding. We've talked about, revisiting that in the future, but right now, breezeway would be attached. You probably,
No, I understand it would be attached, but because it's not a living space, it probably wouldn't be heated, is my point, which is not living space. Would that be considered part of the structure that would be extending into the easement?
I believe it would, yes. The way we interpreted it in the past, yes.
So right now we have, I believe you said 50 feet from the back of the structure to the back setback, which minus 35 leaves 15 feet. So 15 feet of an addition is quite large, but it's not going to attach the garage. And at that point, it's less than 10 feet from the garage probably, right? 'Cause that's
Yeah,
what's
because
required.
that's the standard, right, for detached, yeah.
So that's where it's all,
Yeah.
okay.
Just curious. It looks like, so you're adding a basement, which is, I think, very smart. Why, it looks like it was a very, specific size. That, from the drawings, looks like it actually would live within the within the allotted, or the required space. Can you explain why the basement wasn't the full length of that addition?
The basement is only under the addition, but because of, from what I understand, I'm not going to pretend to be an architect or a structural engineer, but because of the foundation and the existing slab in the garage and connecting that, it is, I guess, more supported if you don't put the basement underneath that footing. Does that make sense? In the corner where the garage is?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I just was wondering why you didn't go out further, like underneath the porch, for instance, or not necessarily under the garage, but I just was curious why this particular size was chosen.
Because that was the recommendation of the architect.
Okay.
For what structurally would make the most sense and be the least cost prohibitive. Because I guess as you add on certain, projections out either way, you have to then support that with a footing and a foundation, and there's more cost associated with it, is how it was explained to me. So, I'm trying to be mindful of the fact that although this would be a very large investment on my part in my home, that this is still the city of Ferndale, so it's not Birmingham. I'm not spending, $300 or $400 a square foot
Right.
to do this project.
Through the chair, I have a question for the applicant.
Go ahead.
So I'm not an architect, so I'm, trying to read architect plans. From the way I'm looking at it, looks like your addition also wraps around the west side of the house?
Yes.
Yeah, so it comes out, there's actually like a natural structural wall there. So that's where we elected for that to come out to the side towards the west.
Okay, so in the first picture where it kind of looks like it comes to, juts out from the side, that's also an addition?
Yes.
Okay, but there's no variance being requested there, that satisfies the 5-foot setback from the lot line? I was just curious because it looked in the Google images, I didn't go to the site, it just looked really close, so I was surprised that another addition would fit there too, so I just wanted to confirm that.
Yeah, I think it's 13 feet currently.
From the lot line on the side? Okay.
It's actually a 50-foot lot, not a 40-foot lot, and it would probably, from the 1920s, not have been, it'd been a lot more space between.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, my home, if you look at, like, if you were to stand at the front of my home sits further back than the other homes on the street. So the other homes on the street are more forward. I wish when they built my house, they would have built it, 5 or so feet forward. It would have probably made things a lot easier, but they didn't.
So making the structure less depth, giving you more rear yard setback, would not attach the garage. Would there be a chance for it to have a 10-foot clearance between the garage and the structure?
No. We tried several different designs with that, and that was not possible. So that's how we ended up with this. Trust me, if I would have thought that this was going to be a problem, we would not have a full set of construction documents sitting there. Would not have happened.
I just wish that there was a way, because it's a very nice design. I just wish that there was a way that we could justify giving you a variance of, what is it, 16 feet. That's a lot.
I understand.
Yeah, I wish there was something about this lot that was unique, that's different than every other lot in the city, that you could call a hardship. Because of the way that it was designed or, the lot itself. And either way you go with even if you were to shorten it up to the north end of the garage, to have it connected, you're still dealing with a variance that needs to be approved to show, and you'd still have to show a hardship as to why you would like, that approved.
To the chair, Judy, procedurally speaking, even though there's nobody here, should we open it up for public comment and then close it
Yeah.
for public comment?
Thank you, yeah.
Sure.
I'll open it for anyone in the audience if you have anything to say. Public comment? No one? We're closing public comment. Thank you. Ann.
Are we moving to discussion among the,
I
board
think
members
that's where
then?
we have to go, unless, Scott, do you have something to say on this?
Well, I can attest to the fact that she did have some misguidance, I guess you call it, with the plans. I did see emails that we didn't have the plan presented.
Do we have any, can we see those documents?
I don't have them, I can follow up with them.
I have them on my phone. I can forward them to somebody.
What, the emails between her and the building department? Is that what you want?
Yeah, the ones that originally said that this wasn't going to be a problem and approved her to get an architect to move forward. Yeah. I have a feeling I know who they're from.
No, we know who they're from, Greg. It's okay.
Yeah, the only thing I can add is that her house is set back further than the other homes, so that does restrict the backyard. Typically, rear setbacks are allowed for the sight line down to that. In this case, I saw how it does narrow down, and that sight line is two, so it doesn't cause as much impact as what a typical straight shot would be. So,
I'm thinking back to when I did my addition. It was way before these codes were in place, so this was in the year 2000. Got the plans approved, I think, late 99. I have a much deeper lot. I did a 2-story addition, as you're looking to do. I don't mean much deeper. It's like 124, so it's still not a deep lot. I was still able to have a distance between my garage, because I built that before, the 10 feet and stuff. So yes, I guess having the deeper garage, but
Your house sits really close to the sidewalk too, so you're much closer, I think, than her home is to.
I'm closer than the house next door.
Yeah.
On my driveway side, and of course John's house
Oh,
sits
yes,
way back. That's an alley house.
That's a garage in the
I'm
back.
trying to think, and it sits forward to, okay, it sits forward to several of my neighbors. Even the newer construction, it sits forward to that. Okay. I'm just thinking and kind of troubled that we can't overcome this, that's all. Yeah.
How much more do we know that it sits forward? And I only ask because I'm looking, when I look at Google Maps, it looks like it's the same. This is the house there. It looks like it's the same as all these other houses.
I went through and measured on Google Earth just roughly, and it's between about 18 and 20 feet, except for the house just to the east.
Well, as you go
which is
east,
further
they
back.
get closer and closer to the sidewalk. As you go west toward Woodward, they definitely go back.
Even my next door neighbor, though, is back from me. Not hugely back, but I would say probably about 3 feet
Yeah.
back from me.
Although that's a pre-existing situation, I don't know if we can consider it a hardship.
Well, that's how you consider it a hardship, is because it's pre-existing.
No, but but it's also similar to others. If you
Yes,
if you
that's
look at all
why
of
I'm
the
trying to
Woodward
find something
corridor,
unique.
you'll find it very similar.
I also have a question, Justin. Confirm the setback from the front of the house is 25 feet?
The required setback?
Yeah. Yes. And then on the drawings here, it shows the front of the house, not including the porch, is 26 feet and 9 inches. So there's about a little more than a foot, almost 2 feet to spare there.
Can I ask a question to us? Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm having a really hard time seeing the hardship in the rear yard setback. I'm curious when considering the garage and the possibility of the distance between the garage and the house, you know, if it weren't the connected one. Is there any room for considering the current placement of the garage as the hardship in that situation? Kind of that existed before they came. They can't change that. So I'm thinking, I still can't really see the reasoning for this variance, but seeing an easier time maybe for the 10-foot variance between the garage and the house because the garage is already placed. But
I think I understand where you're coming from. I think
Yeah.
that would also, though, at that point, shorten the addition anyway by 10 feet.
Sure, but it will be a different kind of variance. I was thinking
I
the
hear.
same
Okay, I
thing.
hear what you're saying.
I'm just saying
On that issue, as
I'm-
opposed to a variance on the issue of an incursion of 19 feet or 16 feet into the setback.
yeah, unfortunately, it would still change the plans in a way the applicant probably is not happy about. But I'm just seeing where I can see the current placement of the garage potentially as a hardship. Although the way it's written, it does say that the hardship should be unique to the property. I don't know if the existing garage makes that, a unique part of the property. If anyone else could give their opinions on that, I guess.
Well, because what is the uniqueness of it? It's non-conforming already
Okay.
because it was allowed way back when.
Okay.
And mostly because of its setbacks to the side
Okay.
and rear, I think, right? I think it's less than, is it 9 feet off the rear?
No,
What is it?
it's only 5.
No, I'm
5 and
saying, but
5.
what's allowed? 5 and 5? Okay, 5 and 5.
So I don't think the back is the issue of the garage. I think it's the side. It's the 2 feet 10 3/4 inches.
Right, exactly, which a lot of our houses are. So, I mean, that's nothing new.
2 feet off. the
Mine's
line
3
both
feet.
ways.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's nothing new at all. But, I mean, my newer garage built in 1997 or 98 is 3 feet off the lot line because it wasn't something that was required. And I think it's new, but it's about 20 years old. But anyway, so actually making the addition smaller is a consideration to be a smaller variance, if any, if it's allowed, or no variance by taking some square footage off the addition. I don't know if that's comfortable for you. It's not what you might want, but it would still give you the extra space. I think it would just be in smaller portions.
I just have to be very honest that I've invested a lot of money at this point in time, and I'm tapped out on drawings. This has just been a little bit more than I'm comfortable with. I mean, I worked through 2 different architects on this, because the first architect was designing a little pie in the sky and was, doing things outside the budget, but we already had the block plans that had been approved, and then I hired a second architect. I moved through these drawings, and, you know, the fees are expensive, and, you know, like I said, I would not have made the commitment to move forward with construction documents if I didn't feel confident that I was going to be able to build this. So this was a surprise. And I understand if it doesn't meet the existing requirements, then it can't be done. But at this point, I just think that I need to move on to a different option somewhere else because it's just not going to work.
So making the addition smaller is not an option.
No, because even if you look at the plans, you know, for the upstairs and everything, there's not that much extra room in the master bedroom just because of the odd, you know, corridors and things that you're creating. So what ends up happening then is you have this totally like truncated space, and it's just not going to get me what I was intending. And it's going to be a big investment, whether I get what I want or I don't. So if I can't get what I want, I can't see making that big of an investment. It just doesn't make sense to do that.
I mean, it seems like the plans, like basement, first floor, great room. They don't look like they probably encroach. It's like you said, it's just that second floor. You'd have to like condense that master
Well, you have the
into a smaller
stairs
space.
to the basement, so there has to be a certain amount of what you want to call clearance there. So there is some consideration, and because of the height that I want to get in the basement, it affects the number of stairs and the length of the stairs. So if I wanted to have a short basement, let's say, you know, like a 7 foot or 7'6", but I was hoping to have tall people to be able to stand up there and maybe even put in a finished ceiling at some point. So there's been a lot of thought put into it.
I think the main, I guess, what we had seen, the closest thing that we had come to for uniqueness was just the lot depth as you move to the east, I guess it is, with this lot being just over 100, and those the lot depths kind of grow as you go to the west. That was the main thing we saw with the with being where the current house is located. That being the challenge, but.
Well, a question then through the chair to you: is that uncommon? Is the depth of that lot uncommon for Ferndale?
Probably not for Ferndale,
Okay.
but for
I was
that,
gonna say I don't think that mine's that.
yeah,
You know, we have the same lot size.
yeah.
I don't
No,
think
I
ours
think
are
yours-
that.
Mine's shallower than yours, and closer
Really?
to Woodward, significantly shallower.
I think that you're at least 120. I'm positive.
Oh, I'd be shocked if I was 120.
From the street? Sure you are.
Oh, maybe from the street. Okay.
That's what I'm saying,
Yeah.
yeah. Not from the back of your house. That adds 20 more feet compared to this lot, that's all I'm saying. And Ian, you're probably at 110 or something.
Maybe not even that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bless you. Thank you. What I think is different about this lot, and I mean, you can tell by all the lots on that street, is it's a wider lot. And then the house next door, it's actually 2 lots if you divide it, but it's sitting on 2 lots. It's not like it could be subdivided, right?
Through the chair, I first want to state that I'm disappointed and think it's frankly ridiculous that this resident was told that a very significant variance could just be somehow waived and just ignored by a city employee who isn't part of the zoning board or probably probably planning commission or city council or anything like it. I know that it sounds like this is something that probably happened before you guys were here, and I've certainly not seen anything like this in the time that I've ever been on the zoning board. It is, it's frustrating, I feel, for the applicant. I know I have a similarly sized lot, and it is difficult to try to think about what you can do to improve your home on a lot that size. The unfortunate reality that I see us running up against is that our zoning board has limited powers. We're restricted by the zoning ordinance and by Michigan law under section 18.05 of our zoning ordinance. We're not permitted to grant variances that don't meet the ordinance requirements, and we're specifically not permitted to amend the zoning ordinance through granting variances. It says so in our ordinance. Michigan law says the same thing. Any changes in the ordinance have to originate with city council, not with the zoning board. The standard in Michigan for granting a dimensional variance, which is what this would be, is whether practical difficulties exist that would stand in the way of carrying out the strict letter of the ordinance. That's codified in Michigan law at MCL 125-3604 subsection 7. Our zoning ordinance in Ferndale has the same requirement in 18.07a. A variance can only be granted if there are practical difficulties associated with carrying out the ordinance. In Michigan, we typically apply 3 factors to determine whether practical difficulties exist. First is whether compliance with the ordinance as written would unreasonably prevent the owner from using the property for a permitted purpose, or would render conformity unreasonably burdensome. So in other words, is there something going on that would prevent a owner of residential property from building a residence on the property? Not necessarily the residence they might want, but a residence. The second factor is whether granting the requested variance would do substantial justice to the applicant as well as to other property owners in the district, or whether a lesser variance would give substantial relief to the owner and be more consistent with justice to other property owners. So in other words, if a variance is being requested, you look for if there's a real practical difficulty, what's the lowest variance that we can approve that will overcome that practical difficulty. The third factor is whether relief can be granted in a way that observes the spirit of the ordinance and secures public safety and welfare. Our zoning ordinance in Ferndale incorporates these same requirements for dimensional variances. That's in section 18.07C1. When Michigan courts review zoning decisions that involve denial of setback variances like this one, courts typically hold that the right to build on residential property is a substantial property right, but property owners don't have the right to build according to a preferred design that conflicts with zoning ordinances. Typically, variances require that an applicant show special or unique circumstances that is peculiar to the property and not from general neighborhood conditions. This is something that's routinely litigated in Michigan in zoning and land use law. This requirement is also in our ordinance at section 18.06e. And one of the main reasons for this is if a hardship affects multiple properties in the same way, the proper remedy is to amend the zoning ordinance as a whole so every one of the property owners gets the same relief, and not to just grant a variance to one specific property. We've talked about this at the planning commission level and I think in this body as well about the fact that, for example, we have a 5-foot setback required for garages. There's been some back and forth lately as to whether that's entirely necessary, although that, as of today, 5 feet is still the setback requirement. Unfortunately, for this applicant, financial considerations are generally not sufficient to support a variance. I would like to be able to say, Ms. Roeder has put a substantial amount of money into this. I therefore am going to support granting the variance, but I can't do that because that financial consideration isn't something under Michigan law that I can actually consider. And a bigger problem with an incursion into a setback of this scope is that, as we all know, we have a lot of new development going on in Ferndale right now. We have a lot of residential development going on in Ferndale right now. And if we grant a variance of this scale to an addition to a residence in Ferndale, we are going to see a massive outpouring of people coming before the zoning board with plans for new homes and plans for proposed additions to homes that have similarly large incursions into the setback. Now, I know with this applicant in particular, that was the last thing on her mind when she brought these plans before us, because for some ungodly reason, someone from the city has told her this is all fine, it doesn't matter, it's not a big deal. you're not going to have to go before the zoning board. Unfortunately, that's not true, and unfortunately, if we were to grant this, it would have some very serious ramifications for the city in general. We would literally be rewriting the zoning ordinance in a way that is at odds with what City Council determined when it passed the last zoning ordinance. And for that reason, I can't support it. Not only can I not support it for those philosophical reasons, but because I don't believe that as a zoning board member I even have the power to do it based on what our zoning ordinance says. And, I'm left just feeling disappointed by the whole situation. This applicant has put together a plan that I think, looking at it, I think this is a fantastic plan. I like the design. I think it's very nice. I would love to have something like this on my lot. But unfortunately, unless City Council does something to revisit what those rear setbacks can be and changes the zoning ordinance, I don't see that we have the power to approve this, or that any of us who have similarly shallow lots are really going to be able to do something like this. So.
I thank you, Ian, a lot for that. We are a pseudo judicial board, so we can't create codes and laws. We just have to enforce them, and unfortunately, that's I think where we are right now. I'm going to ask for somebody to make a proposal, unless somebody else has something to say. Sorry, I meant to ask. Any other discussion?
I guess just the only thing I would add from the city is sincerely apologize for, there's a lot of money and time spent into this. It's not something that as community and economic development staff we're proud of. It's something that I think has been rectified. Unfortunately, you're meeting Scott for the first time under these circumstances, but I think he's been a great addition and certainly paid the attention to detail that's needed for when there's this much development and projects going on in the city. So we do apologize. Unfortunately, this is kind of the situation we're in right now.
Based on discussion at this point, I will move that the Zoning Board of Appeals deny the variance application to allow a dimensional variance of 16 feet from the required minimum rear yard setback of 35 feet at 174 University Street. Sid law number 24-25-34-254-012. After a public hearing was held, is set, published for this date and place, and the motion accompanied by the findings set forth in the packet.
Would someone like to second that motion?
Second.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any discussion? Roll call, please.
Colson,
Agreed.
Deasy,
Yes.
Palmer,
Yes.
Polika,
Sadly, yes.
Shapiro,
Yes.
Steidemann,
Yes.
Williamson.
Yes, and Ms. Roeder, I'm sorry that we have to do this, but these are our laws and these are how we're bound to follow.
Are we closed for open discussion? In this?
I asked for discussion after the motion was made and nobody said anything.
No, I mean,
For comment?
comment, yeah.
Comment at this
No.
point?
I would.
I guess you could. Go ahead.
I don't know if you can tell, but Ian's a lawyer, probably a very good one. And I think it's terrible what happened to you. And I think there's probably I'm not a lawyer, but I think that you should try to recoup your money because it's just ridiculous what happened to you.
I would agree. That was my intent. Thank you.
Good luck to you, Ms. Roeder.
Thank you. Okay, second on the agenda is 2310 Hamada Street. I don't see anybody in the audience that's coming forward, so I guess we could dismiss this.
Yes. Spoke with the applicant last week, and things seemed to be all that he was ready to attend. So, not sure what happened. We'll follow up with him tomorrow and see if you'd like to come back for November, I suppose.
Did they think that they didn't need to attend?
No. It was pretty clear, I think, from our conversation that this was their case to present, not the city's. But we'll follow up.
Can we have a discussion about this, or can we not, because it's...
Oh, I'd ask our
Probably not
attorney in the room.
It's probably not kosher to have a discussion.
Yeah, I
but
don't
that's
think
all
so.
right. That's
Okay.
fine.
What I would like to do if we could, though, is take this opportunity and ask Justin if maybe, Justin, can you update us as to whether there's been any discussion, maybe Greg, you can weigh in on this too from the council level. Has there been any discussion that you're aware of about revisiting that 5-foot setback for garages?
There,
That's a very common issue that we
not
see.
not from a council point of view. I believe council is waiting for the planning commission to make a recommendation to council.
Waiting for planning commission to do that?
I believe, yeah, because they
Okay,
generally
so
they generally set the recommendation to council to change an ordinance, especially this type of ordinance.
I'll try to put that on the agenda for tomorrow's meeting then. Let's see.
Yeah.
Or bring it up to call the commissioner portion and just say, hey, we should have this conversation, and so it can get on the next agenda, because I don't know if you could bring it up last minute.
Well, we have usually on other business catch-all at
Oh,
the end.
okay.
So that's kind of what I'm thinking. And, this has been, like, I know I've participated in this discussion, as have probably many of you that have been on the board for a while, multiple times on multiple occasions.
Yeah.
And I think even in the planning process, we talked about whether that was a little bit aggressive to have the 5 feet. And I feel like someone at one point said they had even discussed this with the fire chief, and he had weighed in and said that he thought 3 feet would be sufficient, and that 5 feet wasn't necessarily what they actually needed between 2 garages. I may be misremembering that, but
I can double check with the fire marshal and see the latest opinion on it. I mean, I think some other communities do have, if you have fire rated construction, then sometimes you can go a little
That's
bit
where-
lower. So,
Where I think it came down to from was it the marshal or our chief? I don't know which.
Okay.
I think it had to be with fire retardant material.
I mean, with the size of the lots, I mean, as we've seen from today, it is difficult to expand on these lots. It's difficult to build on these lots. I think we're going to be seeing much more of it. I mean, I see houses being renovated constantly in the city now. I think we're going to. This has been a thorn in the side since I've been on zoning board. People wanting to build their garages closer to the lot line. I think it's
Because
only
that's
gonna
where the
accelerate.
existing ones were,
Right.
or that,
Right.
their neighbor has it, or whatever. I think it becomes more of an issue if you've got 2 garages side by side, where that's why there are some old codes that said your driveway can only be on the right side or the left side, whatever it was. I can't remember, but that's the way it was, so that you didn't have garages next to each other. It was kind of interesting to look back at that.
Right.
Well, I know that when I built my garage back in 2007, 10 years ago, the setback was 3 feet, both in the back and on the side.
Did we bump it to 5 feet from 3?
Yes, I believe that happened in 2010 with the master land use plan of that period.
2008, yeah.
2008, yeah.
2008,
Okay.
yeah.
Yep.
So,
But it didn't change the size of the garage, you know that, right?
no, it didn't. It
I'm
didn't.
being facetious, because
Yes.
that's something that came before the Board of Zoning Appeals over and over and over again. The same persons would come before us, wanting a larger garage than 600 square feet. It was, seriously, every meeting.
Greg, do you remember the reasons why the change was made from 3 to 5?
I do not. I was not on council at that time.
We can.
I believe. Well, I had my garage, so I was kind of like,
Yeah,
mine's
me
built,
too.
so I'm okay. But seriously, I have a feeling that it was mostly due to concerns with people being, too close to other people's property lines, wanting that space, but at the same time, we keep talking about density.
Right.
So it's like,
Yeah.
you're talking about, density on one side, and then you're saying, no, we need to have more space.
Yeah.
You can't have the garage on the front of the house, so
yeah.
everything has to be
Ex-
compact,
tight.
Yes.
which I appreciate.
So-
yes.
So I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So what the planning commission may want to consider is maybe changing it for auxiliary buildings, to 3 feet, but maintaining it with houses for 5, just for that fire concern, because, garages being next to the fence are less likely a
Right.
issue
Right,
than
right,
two
right.
houses
Yeah, I
together
agree
that are only
100%.
Right.
6 feet apart from one another.
Right.
Yeah, I can. If we want to talk about that at the planning commission tomorrow, I can talk with the fire marshal tomorrow and see the latest opinion on that. The other, I think, at least since my time at the city, the R2, I think it was the lot width was also one that was. I think initially when I started, there were a few requests for that, so that is probably one that we should relook at as well.
Yeah, the lot width on R2 is just weird, and
Yeah.
we've discussed that on
Well,
this
it's all
board.
over the board, isn't it?
Multiple, well, it's like you have to be like wider for R2 than you do for R1 or R3,
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but which
Well, I think it's real interesting because on my street, I'm the only R2. Everything else around, I'm a 2-unit. Everything else is single family, but it's from the house next door to me, to Woodward, that's zoned R2.
Yeah.
And behind me, R2. But my house, it's not. So I don't know who decided that.
yeah, you could look into that, Justin. I do want to raise that at
Okay.
the commission.
Sure. Yeah, I know part of the reason for the rear setback for accessory buildings is partially due to like sewer easements and things like that, and it kind of just alleviates a question that happens in building on an easement and stuff like that. But I'll ask about, and I'll see, what some of the history was on that. Hopefully I can bring that to the next meeting. I think we'll have a couple November agenda items.
So the new construction that's going where Wilson is, I'm just going to take that as an example.
Mm-hmm.
Are they doing attached garages or detached garages?
Detached. Yes.
Are the setbacks 5 and 3 or 5 and 5?
Yeah, they meet the R1 district. I think she may have been a little misinformed. I'm not sure. Because I think she was alluding to the Wilson project was going to have some different setbacks, and it's not the case.
Well, are they 1-car garages or 2?
It's depends on the option.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think the the owner has the choice of a 1 or a 2
Yeah,
car
there's-
garage.
What are those lot sizes, if you don't mind me asking?
I can't remember off the top of my head.
I thought they were 40 feet,
But how far deep?
Well-
How deep are they?
Deep.
probably 120.
Yeah, I think they're around 120. There's
Because they're
28
going to
units.
align, college is going to align
Right.
Right.
right into the new street, which is going to be called Wilson, that goes north and south. And then, university, they're just going to build on the other side. So everything's going to match up to whatever it is, based off of the house depths off of Hilton.
Paxton. Oh,
I'm
oh.
sorry, Paxton.
Paxton,
You're right,
yeah.
Paxton. For university and college, it's just going to continue on forward.
Well, my lot on College is 110, but I'm in the.
You're probably closer to Woodward. I think they're 120 as you get to.
Okay.
Yeah.
I just didn't know how they were. So if we do make that change through the planning commission to the council, then would they change their plans for that construction site?
I'm sure they probably would. I know I probably would.
Probably.
One of the
Well,
buyers.
that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we should probably expedite that.
The depth for those, I do have the plan open. They're between 110 and 120, depending on if you're facing university and if you're facing the extended college. So, yeah. Yep.
So College, the name of the street that extends College is now going to be called Wilson?
The north-south short street that kind of will go south into University Street. The neighborhood would like it to be Wilson. At a council meeting in November, it'll be up for council's consideration if
So the
that's the name.
north-south street, not an east-west?
The east-west street will be College.
It will be,
College
okay.
continuing.
I was just
It's
going to
gonna
say,
dead
please
end.
don't change a name again.
No,
That's
no,
like,
no.
come on.
Palmer Street?
No, that's fine, yeah. There already is several of those. But no, I'm just saying, you see all these streets that change names.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
Pearson is actually College,
Yeah.
which,
Yeah.
why wasn't it Pearson? It's only a short street, I don't
Oh,
know.
because
I have
it's,
so many questions
because
like
you have
that
it's
around the city.
It's academy, college, university. It's the school neighborhood.
I understand that.
Okay. Well,
But on the other side of
Pearson
Woodward is
would have
Pearson.
thrown it all off.
Yeah, and maybe people didn't want to have to wonder which side of Woodward to go to.
Yeah.
You know, like East
Maybe.
Marshall, West
I
Marshall.
know.
Yeah.
Oh, believe me, that tends to be a
Yeah.
problem anyway.
Yeah.
We have no trees.
Getting back to a point that you made, though,
they
I
may have
think the applicant, at least I understood the applicant was trying to compare what she wants to do to her house, increase the size, to those that were being built in Wilson.
Yeah, and
Because
the
they're building
improvements.
these,
Yeah.
you know, 15, 20, 1,500, 2,000 square foot homes, you know, and her house is probably like maybe 1,000,
Sure.
1,200 square feet.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
So
was trying
that's my understanding of what she was trying to relate to.
Mhm.
I didn't
Yeah,
think that it was the variance related
Her argument is
necessarily.
more, I think, that the neighborhood is changing in that there are going to be these bigger, newer homes, and she wants
Yes.
the home to be more in keeping with that.
I think it's smart.
Oh, I understand that.
And I
but
think she was
is it
willing to invest a lot of money, because I know what I spent on my addition.
Yeah.
I'd love to do it to my house,
Yeah.
but yeah.
So I couldn't. It's the way I could do it,
Why?
even if I had the money.
What?
Same reason.
Oh, there's same
Oh,
as we have, yeah.
Okay, the lot,
Yeah.
okay, gotcha. I guess having slightly deeper lot that I have, I was able to do what I
Yeah.
needed to do.
I built as
that's
big a garage
all.
as I
Plus, we
could.
vacated the alley, which gave me 9 feet, so.
Right, yeah, there you go.
That's a big
In
one.
my house, I would make
Okay, I have
it
one
build
more
around
question,
the
because it's
trees
gonna come before you, since it's not really, so something's gonna come before the planning commission that I think is like a rubber stamp, just because I've seen it happen before, then it goes to the council, which is basically taking a house that's attached to a church and separating it into a house, which is kind of unusual, but that's what's gonna happen. How long does that take?
To do the actual work, or to
Well, they're
the process?
working with the city right now, but for the planning commission to rubber stamp it basically and then send it to the council.
Sounds like probably that they need to come before us for site plan
That they're working on, yeah,
approval,
right.
and then, I don't know that site plan approval goes up to the council.
No,
So
it doesn't.
I think I know what you're talking about. So there's a lot split application that we
Right.
just approved for it. So yeah, so if the new development goes in that church side, there'd be a new site plan that planning commission would certainly approve.
No, we want to separate the house. We just want the house separate from the church.
Yeah, so that wouldn't require planning commission approval.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, if there's no
I think
construction
that's
or
what he was
change like
told.
that.
Oh, okay. If it's the project I'm thinking of, it's probably on.
On University.
Yeah, so then it's.
Mhm.
I think it's on its way to Oakland County.
Oh,
So-
okay, good, yay.
Is it physically attached?
No,
Okay.
but
That's what I was
it's
thinking
never
too.
paid taxes. There's no
Oh,
record of it at all,
okay.
no property record of it. It was really strange. I go, well, how big is it?
Yeah.
And I couldn't find any information on it
Yeah.
because it's attached to the church.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, okay, just checking.
Okay.
Things that might have to come before the zoning board of appeals, I don't know.
Yay, more taxes.
Yeah, well, exactly. No, I think, and people are balking
Keep
at
that out
the
of
idea
those.
of all this construction. We don't have industry. We lost industry a long, 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 long time ago. 35, 40 years ago, we lost our industry. And I think it's awesome that we're having property taxes now.
Yeah.
And they're going to be homeowners.
Yep.
It's not going to be rentals. It's just not that market.
Hey, make
So.
a salsa as industry. There's some industry still
Oh,
here.
I know. But no, I'm talking about way before you.
Right.
There was along the railroad track, there was a lot of industry.
Right.
A lot. I mean,
It's
really
definitely
supported
changing
Ferndale
that.
a lot.
Well, yeah, Hilton, almost all of South Hilton was
Right.
industry. Yeah.
Yep. So it's kind of neat to see it, although
Yeah.
when it comes to, and I'm just asking a question, it's going to be residential across the street from my house, but it's also owned by the church, the land, and now that has to be separated. So the school and the
yeah.
addition are now going to be privately owned, yet residential, but not personal residential, because I think they're rentals.
Yeah.
Is that correct?
I was just going to say, and I will answer that question. Can we just get through the administrative items, and then that way Barb doesn't have to include all this in the minutes? I'm just trying to
I'm
save
just
Barb.
listening and I'm
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, that's
Okay.
fine. Okay, so
Uh,
let's go. Okay, administrative items. Anybody?
I just wanted to make sure that the whole board got to see the email that I think Mara sent, our intern, about the planning and zoning workshop.
Workshops.
Yes. Not required, but it's something we wanted to offer. I know there was there's new folks on the BZA, obviously, and planning commission, so we're trying to offer training, and MAP is offered to come, and give that. So it is a Saturday. It's a longer workshop. If you can't make that one, we're going to do some other workshops that are probably after work and will not entail an entire Saturday afternoon. But this one is like kind of the 101, I guess.
It's a good shot.
Yeah. And then my only other item was, unfortunately, I had to meet Scott under these circumstances from earlier, but I wanted to just introduce Scott Worthington. He's our new building official. We are happy to have him on board. I don't know if you want to tell your background, but comes to us from Birmingham. Had a lot of experience with the Board of Zoning Appeals there as well. So you might see Scott at future meetings joining me, which I appreciate. So.
From Birmingham. This is easy peasy then.
Yeah, I attended all the board meetings and did a lot of presentations. And they met pretty much
We've met more this year than in my recent years, but
Well, yeah, the first year I was on it, I think we met once.
yeah.
The second year we met twice. Last year we met a few times.
Yeah.
This is the most, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you're just lucky that you didn't have to sit before somebody doing the same thing about garages for
Oh, yeah.
15 years. That was a lot of fun. Ha.
Any other administrative?
That was all I had.
I'm forwarding that email about the training to everybody, like responding to all and forwarding it.
Okay. I appreciate it.
Just because I know it got buried in my stuff even though I read it. So.
Yeah, because I think there's a survey that everyone is being asked to take
Yep.
to say when you're available.
Yeah, right now the first 2 Saturdays in December are the front runners, it looks like, but
I think those are the only two I can make.
yeah.
And even one of them is questionable because it's the holiday. It's the Saturday where all the downtown holiday
Yeah.
festival, all that is. So.
Yeah.
Well, it's only from 9 to noon.
It'll be from probably 9 to 3:30.
3:30.
Oh, it's
yeah.
3:30.
It's
But
all
we'll feed you, so.
Continental breakfast and lunch. Gee. Okay.
Yeah.
Bagels or?
We'll see. I'll take preferences.
I'd
Hey,
rather-
better than
I'd
water
ra-
and gruel.
I'd rather have bagels and donuts. Okay. May I adjourn, guys? Everything cool? Okay. We are adjourning at whatever time it is. 8:14.